when I'm being paid to do something, I'm like, well, I'm obviously good at this. Like if someone's paying me to be somewhere, I can like really lean into the part of me that is like, yes, I'm good at this. And when I'm just doing normal life, I'm like, I'm garbage. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's a
Wow.
really, like, it's really, and I don't mean to sound like that's very extreme version. I don't,
Right.
mostly I go through my life feeling like probably something very in between that. But I think when, like to go back to that sort of original story I was telling, like there was a period of my life where anytime I was in a situation where maybe it wasn't clear what I do for a living or what I'm successful at, I would be like, well, I have nothing to offer these people. I have nothing, like I'm not substantial in any way. And it took me a long time to figure out that I could be interesting on my own, that I didn't always have to be part of Tegan and Sara, the band, but also just Tegan and Sara, twin sisters who like show up places and everyone goes, oh, interesting. I really didn't believe that I was that interesting until probably like I was in my 30s, you know.
Yeah, it's wild to think about that for all of us and also just culturally, how we all grow up with this idea of success and like as long as you're being paid for, you're successful, then you're something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're nothing. And so it's no wonder there's so much despondency and mental health issues and things. It's like, how can everyone be a success? How can everyone knock it out of the park and get their name in lights or.
Yeah.
And so instead, I really hope this little hub we've created is kind of this wish and aspiration that those who want to make art just make art and feel seen for that and feel heard for that without it having to make a big splash necessarily, but that's part of also why it's fun to have people who have made a splash and who have done it their own way and arrived in a sense to pay it forward and talk about other artists that they really champion that might not have that opportunity yet. So it's a kind of practice. This whole podcast is a way to try to unravel a little bit of that because I do think that, I don't think people who are successful feel that as much, although I've heard that people who are successful just want to be more successful. So it actually never ends. It's like a cycle of like, we're not big enough. We didn't get that. Let's go for this. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it ever ends unless we end the obsession with sort of like fame and, like arriving. This sense of like arrive as if anyone ever fully arrives in their life.
The best, like I have this thing that just popped into my head when you were saying that, like in 2010, I think it was, we were opening for Cyndi Lauper on her True Colors tour. Yeah, it was such a delight. She was incredible. And one night we did this HRC event and Regina Spektor was also on the leg of dates that we were doing. And I remember we went to this HRC event and Cyndi and Regina and Sara and I were sitting together. And Regina was asking Cyndi Lauper all these questions about like, we were all meaning Sara and I and Regina, we were kind of complaining about like how hard it is in the industry and it's so tough. And, when are you satisfied? And like, Regina was kind of giving this really eloquent, wonderful sort of soliloquy about like, like art is hard. So Cyndi hears the three of us kind of, all lamenting how tough it can be, how hard art is. And, she kind of gave us all a lecture about how it's always hard and that the harder it is, the more you're doing something challenging, you're trying something new. And that even at the height of her success, it's like she came off, this moment with She's So Unusual, like all these Grammys, this big moment. And she's like, then it's hard because you're like, well, then what do I do? And how do I sustain that? Or how do I do something creatively satisfying that's different? And I remember really thinking a lot about that after that tour and through the next part of our career where, it became about assigning value to like the kind of success that I was interested in. And that for me, the value is in challenging myself. And so it's like success looks really different from year to year. Like sometimes success is like, how do we get a bigger, better time slot on a festival? But then the next year, it's like, how do we take a year off and write a book? Like, how do we do that? How do we, like to me, it's always changing and challenging myself to do something different. And that's allowed me to feel like slightly less upset about not achieving certain kinds of success. And I think like going back to what you were saying about shining a light on new artists and helping other people, like I think what Cindy was doing for us, like Sarah and I've tried to pay forward to so many artists as well, like sharing information, sharing experiences, reminding artists that sometimes you'll think, oh, I want to have my song come out and I want it to be huge. I want it to get playlisted on all the big Spotify lists. And then it happens. And then you feel this emptiness and it didn't satisfy you. And that's actually really normal. And that most people feel that way. And that you're going to have to start to look inwards, not to get real woo woo here, but like you have to start to look inwards and see like, what is it that you really want? You know, like a lot of these external check marks that we're putting on the list of things that we're supposed to achieve as people, not just as artists or, you know, performers or whatever, just as human beings, like getting a big screen TV or, you know, getting a butt that you see on TikTok all the time. Everybody wants a nice butt or whatever. It's like,
wow,
that's true.
That was
that's what's like
an interesting spectrum from a big screen TV to a butt. Yeah,
I love that. I loved it.
I don't know. Like my thing is just like, it's always changing. You know, what you want to achieve. And ultimately it's never the things you thought. Like, it's not the obvious stuff that fills the inside.
Hey, everybody, we're Tegan and Sara, and we want to launch our cousin Jen's new project, Big Rig, by playing you this fantastic first single called Crying in a Corn Maze.
Hey, if you like that video, you can see the whole thing at our Patreon page. That's right, just hit the link that you're seeing on the screen right now, and it'll take you there. And you can become a patron today and help us keep launching new artists and bringing left-of-center art and activism to a wider audience. And can't wait to see you soon.